If you like this video, make sure to visit our Vimeo page and follow us to get the latest update.
It is always good. I mean, this is my personal suggestion. So probably if you have your credit card, right? So what you can do is you can actually open up an Azure or AWS account using your own credit card. So do not worry. I mean, you will not get charged because there is something called as free tier concept in both AWS and Azure. So once you spin up a virtual machine or once you use all those stuffs which are allocated within that free tier, you will not be charged to your credit card. So this will give you a very good advantage of spinning up, say, a virtual machine, and then probably the commands, whatever we had executed yesterday, right? So you can try to execute those commands, install Docker, and do all those stuffs. So, and I think Microsoft gives you a credit of 13,000 rupees, which if I have to translate to USD, it will be close to about $200 per month, and you can use all the resources, whatever resource that you want for the $200. Until your $200 is going to get exhausted, you can use that. You don't have to worry that your credit card will be charged. So suppose that your $200 is going to cross, like you're feeling that it will get crossed, you don't have to worry about that also. As soon as your $200 is over, all your resources will be shut down. So you don't have to be in apprehension that my credit card will be charged if I don't maintain it or use it. So this is just for practice purpose, right? So just if you have your credit card, you can get started. So you don't have to wait for the actual systems to practice on Dockers and other things. So it hardly takes 5 minutes for you to register to Azure and then get started with the Dockers and the Kubernetes stuff, right? So this is what I wanted to tell you before I start. I'll just quickly recap whatever we had covered yesterday, and then we will continue our discussion from there. So we saw introduction to DI, right? So we saw introduction to DI, and we saw why data intelligence, correct? Why data intelligence has been created by SAP, what are all these advantages and other stuff. We saw architecture, right? We saw the high level architecture of DI. Now, then we saw Docker images, right? So how to build a Docker images, how to run containers, right? And then how to push the images to the repository, right? Push images to repository. Then we saw Kubernetes. What is a Kubernetes? It is a container orchestration tool. And then we saw an example of example deployment also we saw, right? How to deploy your YAML file to the Kubernetes cluster. What is a replica? So architecture, right? And we also saw the actual pods available in the installation, in the DI installation. What are all the pods that are available, right? So these are all some of the basics that we had already gone through. Right. So in case, if you have any questions from these topics, just let me know before we move on to the next topic, or else I will start with the next topic, connection management. And before that, I will just place the agenda here, what we are going to cover. Any questions from anyone from yesterday's topic? Okay. I will take it as a no. Then we will move on to the next topic, that is connection management. Okay, so as soon as we are done with the connection management, we will move on to SAP Cloud Connector. So how many of you here have experience with SAP Cloud Connector? I heard someone say they were working in SAP Cloud Platform. So anyone has an experience working with SAP Cloud Connector? Anyone?
I never. Yeah. I think Anshuman might have worked on.
Sorry. Yeah, I was on mute. Yeah, I have experience.
Okay, excellent. So then this should be easy for you. Probably for others, I'll just tell you why it is used for, what it is used for, what are the configurations that has to be done, because this is also, it's an important topic, right? Now, the main core part is ABAP integration, right? So this is again very important. I mean, everything is important, but I'm just stressing on this one. So once we are done with the ABAP integration, then we will move on to the metadata management. Okay. So what we are going to cover in metadata management, yes, we have already seen, some of the basics there. We'll just go a little bit in depth, and then for each and every topic, I will just show you. I have two use cases. One use case is for, say, for example, business glossary. I will upload a data set, and then I'll tell you what has to be done in a similar fashion. I have another data set for rules. So just for an explanation of the topics, I will use individual data sets. And once I am done with everything, I will do a complete end-to-end metadata management with the data sets that I am having. So that is a complete end-to-end. So assume that you're at the customer's place and you have got this data set. Now, what is it that you have to do in the metadata management using the data set? So that particular end-to-end cycle, I will show it to you, right? And if time permits, right? So this is probably the first half, okay, and this is probably the second half. So this is the agenda that I had prepared, but in case if time permits, if we have some more time, then what I will do is I have already prepared a data set for you, okay, custom data set. Now if we have some more additional time, then I will share or upload this custom data set so that you guys can work on this data set. You can do the data preparations on this data set. Whatever I'm going to show you, you can try your hands on during our session itself. Okay, so all good. Shall we move on to the connection management now? Now, what is connection management, right? So can anyone, unmute yourself and tell me the process of how do you connect to a database in data services? Anyone? What is the process that you would be following? If I have to extract data from SAP HANA or SQL Server, what is the first thing that you do? You have to establish or build a connection, right? So how do you do it in data services? I wanted to know the process, how you do it in data services. Can someone unmute yourself and then tell me the process?
We need to create a connection with the source system by connecting its port and host name.
Okay, so create the connections, and what are all the details that you will be giving?
We will be giving the host IP address and the port for connecting, and the username password.
Host IP address, port, username, and password, right?
Yep.
Yep, and it will get connected. Now, your data services is an on-premise system, right? So, and you will be able to connect to the internal systems easily because it is available within the same network. Now, when we talk about connection management with respect to data intelligence, it is 95%, almost the same. Whatever you had told me, right? Host IP address, port, username, and everything is the same. So data intelligence administrators or other business users with the necessary privileges, they will be able to create a connection management to the required application. They will be able to maintain the connections also. So I am saying administrators or business users with necessary privileges. Now everyone will be able to see all the connections that is available in the data intelligence system because you all have the administrator privileges. But there is a way we can restrict the things so that only these many connections will be visible. Okay, so some of the connection management items that we can perform, right? Some of the connection management items that we can some of the connection management actions that we could perform in data intelligence. So what are all the action items that we could do? So we will be able to create the connections, right? I'll be able to create a new connections. I will be able to filter the connections, right? And I will be able to edit the connections, right? So now this is important and this is important, right? I should be able to create a new connection. I should be able to edit the connection. Now, as usual, I will be able to delete the connection if something is not working and I need to remove it. Yes, very well. And then the best feature is I will be able to import or export connection status. Okay, So now what do you mean by import or export is if you have already created the connections, say for example 10 or 12 connections, you can export all these connections from one tenant to another tenant. You can reuse the same connections in some other tenant. So what me and Ganesh, we used to do is for the internal systems, right? Sometimes if we have to test the customer's environment, internally we have our own partner tenants, and then we in one of the partner tenants we just import the connections whatever we had done in our probably development tenant, and then we just export it and then we import it in the partner tenant. So as easy as it is, like within few minutes, all your connections will be up and running. You don't have to go and create all the connections again and again, right? So let us quickly get into the action. I will show it to you in the system how we will be able to create the connection. Okay, so did you guys all log into the system? Is there anyone else who has not logged into the system? Everyone has logged into the system, right? If you log into the system, this is the screen. This is the home page that you will see, right? I hope everyone would have logged into the system. Now, if you see here, we have various styles, right? So we have modeler, we have metadata explorer, we have monitoring, and then we have connection management, customer data export. So each of them, if I have to correlate to what I had told you yesterday, each of them, they represent one or multiple images, and they will be residing in a single or multiple pods, right? So even if my policy management is not working, my metadata explorer will still be working. So these two, as long as they don't have any strong interdependency, they should work on the individual basis, right? So let me quickly go to the connection management now. So I click on the connection management, and my connection management will open. Now you are able to see all the connections that are already available in the system, right? So we just have to set up the pipeline modelers and few graphs. So hence we had created few of the connections beforehand, right? So now how do you create a new connections? As soon as you come to this screen, is someone asking a question? Ganesh, can I just check the chat? Is someone asking any question?
No, that's me actually. I was asking the password while.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Welcome at the rate. Welcome at the rate 2020.
Sorry for the distraction.
Yeah, no problem. Only, yeah. So I'll continue. Now, when you come to this place, right, connection management, now what is going to happen now? You will be, if you have already a predefined established connection, so in some other tenant where everyone else is working, you will be able to see a lot of connections, right? So we have connection types, we have connections, and then we have certificates. So we'll just go to connection types. Looks like the system is a little bit slow today. Yeah. Okay, so these are all the current connection types that are supported by SAP Data Intelligence. Okay, now we'll just go through a few of the connection type. Number one, ABAP connection type. Okay, so this is very, 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 very important because you will be using ABAP connection type to connect your on-premise or cloud SAP systems. Okay, ABAP-based SAP systems. Now we have Azure Data Lake Storage, and then we have Azure Data Lake Storage Generation 2. This is for the older generation. This is for the newer generation. And in case if you want to use a simple notification service from AWS and then use that to trigger some pipeline, you have the AWS SNS connection type here. And then you have the SQL database connection type. And then you have BW connection type, right? So depending on your requirement, you have a lot of connection types here, which is more than enough for the current organizations to connect to the desired data source, right? We have the HANA connection type, we have Google storage, we have S3 storage, we have MySQL, we have SQL Server, Oracle, right? And then we have Vora also. So Vora database is something, if you choose to install SAP Data Intelligence full stack, it will also come by default, and then you will be able to connect to the Vora database, right? And we have Azure Blob Storage as well. Now, these are all the connection types. which you can see, which are supported in data intelligence. Now, how do you create a new connection, right? How do you create the new connection? So I go to connections. I'm able to see all the created connections here. Okay. Now, if I just have to check whether the connections that are available here is working or not. Okay. What I have to do is, say, for example, I just take this particular storage account connection, right? I just click here and then I just check the status. Now it will check the status. So connection ID is this one. Now, this is a little bit secure. When I say secure, if I say that I don't want people to see the credentials that I'm using within a connection, is that possible? Yes, it is possible, because so I use Azure storage account for the connection. This is a successful connection. But when I click on this edit, right? See, when I click on this edit, it will take me to the screen. And then you see here, account key, it's blanked out, right? So account key is the important factor for connecting to the storage account. Without account key, you will not be able to, connect to this blob storage. So not only this, any account, any connection for the fact. Now I have the HANA connection detail. If you want to play around with the connection management, what I would suggest is HANA database. Anyway, the details I'm going to give it to you. Number two, I will show you a mechanism how we can connect to Windows Azure storage, Azure blob storage. So if you can just create your Azure account and create the blob storage the way how I'm going to explain you now, and then you can use it, upload the files in your own blob storage account in case if you want to use it, or else you don't have to worry. You can use the existing connection also. Okay, you can use the existing connections to upload the file and then use it in the metadata and all those stuff. So if you want to just practice, then you create your own account and then use this connection management to connect your data lake or to connect your Azure blob storage, right? So we will proceed. Any doubts till now? Now, okay. So I have my database already connected. So I just check the status. I hope my HANA database is working. Now, if I have to edit this connection, right? I just click on edit and then I will modify whatever I want. Now, if you see, the username and the password is grayed out. Okay, so this will be the IP that you will be using. And this is the port number that you all will be using to connect to the HANA database. And I will send you the user and the password after the end of the session. Okay, so now I'll just click on cancel. How do you create a new connection? You just click on plus. Now, the first thing is the ABAP connection that it comes here. Now, ID, I would give any ID, right? My ABAP, or it could be, my ZaranTech TCS connection, some ID just for my differentiation. And then the description, and then we have the protocol, right? So we have WebSocket RFC, we have HTTPS, and then we have the RFC protocol. So predominantly we use RFC connection, and for S4HANA, we can either use RFC or we can use WebSocket RFC connection to connect to the systems. And now, what are all the details that we have to give in the RFC connection? We have the system ID. Say, for example, it is PAS, and then we have the application server, which is nothing but your host name. Say, for example, it is test.appserver.com, and we have the we have the system number. So by default, it will be 00, and we have the client, and then we have the username, standard user, and then we have the password. So that's it. It's very simple. This is what you have to give.
Is that something we have to always go with RFC connection for ABAP, or do we can go in either protocols?
No, you can go with any other HTTPS or WebSocket RFC also, but it is always recommended to go for RFC because the performance also will be very fast, and then the SAP notes, whatever you're going to implement, it will have some specific steps that you have to do with RFC and WebSocket RFC, right? So depending on that, you can go for either RFC or HTTPS. But from our experience, whatever customers that we had worked with, they had easily gone for RFC connection.
Yeah, even that's what pretty much even I also used in many ways, like even whether it's in Informatica or any other integration tools, like, or even sometimes when you pull the data, anything from out of the CCC or any other systems, right? The BW. So, but then the would there be any other difference that you have seen that other than performance? That's a one thing that commonly that at least like either I've heard or like probably faced. But other than that, do you see any other difference or any other reason that we should go with RFC? Just that
No, Murali, I have not seen, at least, as he had told, right, majority of the customers, at least 90 to 95% of the customers, we didn't even look at HTTPS. We just looked at only RFC because customers also wanted with RFC only. So we really did not even go to the HTTPS section.
So the reason I will tell you that, like most of the cases, like, the use cases or anything that we are talking about. So, there are like more and more, at least I see that like there is a vibe that's really everybody wants to go with this kind of thing. The moment you open that app, right? Earlier it used to be closed systems, and within the SAP landscape, it's perfectly fine. And obviously that RFC would give you that the close integration route where you would be able to take advantage of it. Right now, everything they want to expose it. So they wanted to expose it, mean like it could be API, anything that any data sets we are bringing it, or anything we are going to send it out, or anything to this application. So they wanted to be really like more of not this customer, even the other customers wherever I'm kind of looking into it right now. So all of them are like really looking into it more of like open that up and going through that HTTPS process or like, APIs and then, kind of exposing the services and other systems can come and consume it. So when that situation comes, probably RFC might not be the best route, right? Yes, definitely with this SAP, might be a case, but in other scenarios, like if that's something anybody is exposing it, even though it's SAP system, if they are exporting as a service, for example, if I want to expose like any of the data from on a database, even like, we are also creating a services and we are also exposing in from HANA XSA and exposing it, right? And that's been consumed by, either in the, third party, Angular UIs, or we are entering the data, or we are going to, other systems such as internal systems or external systems, which are, in Azure or anywhere, they're also coming and consuming that APIs right now. Okay, that's been established and we were able to really make progress on that. But I'm saying that like the same scenario would come here as well. So I'm just trying to, thinking loudly, would that be possible? Or if there are any downside to that, if we try to go with that route? That's just wanted to pick your brain and see that what's your take on that.
Okay. So I think that should be possible, Murali. If you are going to expose it, then probably HTTPS is the right protocol. So I'll tell you why. Because if you choose this HTTPS protocol, automatically you will not get one option here, right? So here we have only change note and tags. Now I'll tell you one more thing. If I go for RFC, I'll be able to see one.
Yes, the gateway host.
Oh, sorry. It will not come here. The gateway host. You're absolutely right. It is not getting displayed here because whatever I'm using is an on-premise version. So this will be available in the DI cloud, right? So you have to, because right, why it is used for, because basically for exposing your internal systems to other. But normally, as you had told, right, for the API connections and other stuffs, you can easily use HTTPS protocol, which you will be able to expose it over the internet and connect to those applications. I don't think that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
That is definitely not going to be, because this is very flexible. That's why they have given, all the three protocols. In case if you want to be secure, you can go for RFC and WebSocket RFC. If you want to little bit expose something over the internet and where you want to consume the APIs, then you can easily go for the HTTPS protocol as well. So this is what had been designed, but I have never configured, this HTTP over the internet for any API access, because I have not done that actually, because majority of my experience is revolving around RFC only.
Okay.
But if you want, I can just fetch more details. Probably I'll just try to get some customer cases. It is very hard, to get a customer case with HTTPS connected.
I know. But it's coming. But I'll trust me, it is coming. It's
it is coming. You're right. You're absolutely right. We should also be equipped. Yeah, you're right. I am 100% sure. I know that this could be done, but the thing is, it has not been done because we have not got any such requirements. That is the only reason.
Yeah.
Right. So I will try to get more details on this HTTPS, but as of now, probably you can, just get the differentiation as secure. And then in case if you have to connect to the cloud connector and then connect your on-premise system, you'll be able to use that. I will also try to open up, some of the systems in the cloud version, and then I'll just try to show you how the gateway and all those steps when I take the SAP Cloud Connector, right? So I'll just show you all those steps, what are all the things that are available there. So this is this is the ABAP connection type. We have 3 protocols and system ID, host name, and all the steps are already there, right? And here you can select which connection type you want. If you want to go for MySQL, SQL Server, whatever it is, you'll be able to do it. So if I choose Azure Data Lake, generation 2, I'll be able to create an account. Now, I'll just quickly, for demo purpose, I'll just open up a storage account, and then I will just show you how to create a storage account. What are all the details that you have to give here, right? And then you'll be able to access the connection. So one trivia here is this ABAP system connection, right? So this is for both S4 and the ECC system as well. So even though, as I had told multiple times, this connection might looks very simple. So Murli, I will take you through the SAP notes. You will find all the details in those SAP notes, even with respect to HTTPS connection, what has to be done, an RFC connection, what has to be done. If it's an S4 HANA, what has to be done. Now, you are aware of the fact that if you have to connect to ECC system, the ECC system must definitely have SAP DMIS add-on. Are you aware of this fact?
SAP, sorry, what was that SAP team add-on? What is it?
DMIS, DMIS.
Oh, okay.
So for SLT, you will be you have experience in using SLT?
SLT I have, but so not much on the what do you say that, like ECC systems.
Okay. I mean, so for you to access SLT, obviously the DMIS add-on is already available, because without DMIS add-on, you would not have been able to access the SLT system. So so these are all some of the considerations. I will just cleanly put it out on the whiteboard, and I will just tell you, so that next time if you have to establish a connection with S4 HANA system or ECC system or even BW system, you have to take this into consideration. Directly, if you go to this ABAP connection type, give the system ID, host name, port number, I'm sorry, it will definitely not work. And it is an extensive effort, Murli. I mean, you have to sit for a day or two with the basis colleagues and then upload all those SAP notes and then check whether these SAP notes are uploaded properly, and then you verify it, and then you come here and then you test the connection. Even then it will give you some error, then you have to debug a little more and then see what is the error, and then you have to do all those steps. But don't worry, I will detail you the steps, right? I will be based on our experience. I will detail you the steps, what or from where you have to start, where you have to end. So that is the entire process, right? So I will tell you everything so that your ABAP connection will be made easier. Probably for rest of the connections, it is pretty straightforward, like HANA DB, data lake, data storage, and even if you want to just see the connection type of data services, you have the CMS host, port, username, and password, right? So if your CMS host is exposed, then I think it should be working directly if you give it here. But if your CMS host is not exposed, then probably we need to find a way how it could be exposed via proxy server, and then we have to give that here. So this is also pretty straightforward, though we have to see in case if we encounter any error. If I had a data services system, then probably I would have told you all those things, but unfortunately I did not have the time to create or deploy the data services system and then show you all these stuff. But day 4, I will try my level best. At least I will try to get these connection details, and then I'll just, at least pictorially, I'll just show you what has to be done. I'll just get you the snapshots. At least this is the configuration that has to be done. This is what has to be installed, or if something specific is there, right? So I'll just try to show that on day 4. So now, shall we just go ahead and quickly take some time to create a storage account, and then so that you guys are, you get a good understanding of how to create this connection, right? Just give me a second. Now, what is a so this is your Azure portal, and this is a storage account. So in Azure, you'll have a search. Just search for storage account. It will directly take you to this page. Now I'm clicking on add. So I'm just creating a new storage account. Right. So I'm just giving the subscription. I'll just create a new group, my data lake. Okay. Now you might be wondering, I'm creating a storage account. Why I'm giving the name as data lake? Actually, I'm not creating a storage account. I'm creating a data lake. It is just a very simple feature in Azure. It will, based on that feature, it will decide whether it is a data lake or it is a Azure storage account. I'll just show to you where it is. Now, my storage account name will be like my demo storage account 1, 2, 3. Right, so this is what I will give. Azure will check the availability of the storage account, and then it will give us a tick mark if it is available. Some standard region I will just choose, and then I will choose the V2. If you go for V1, then we have two connection types, right? One is for V2 and one is for V1. If your storage account or data lake is created based on V1, you have to go for the V1 connection. Now we have the V2. Okay, so now I'll not explain the redundant replication and all those steps. Probably it will be way above the boundary for you guys. Okay,
Venkat, can you please repeat V1, V2, when V1 and when V2?
Okay, so this is nothing but you have a general purpose V1 version 1, and this is version 2. Version 1 is the older version of the Azure storage account, wherein some features are not supported, and it is probably the older versions, right? So people are using only V2 nowadays. So this V1 is only for people who had been using Azure for like 4 or 5 years back, where they had already created the V1 storage account and they have multiple files already stored in that V1 account, and they want to utilize that. So that is on. For us, for you people, it is always V2. Don't go for V1. This is also the standard recommendation that is provided by Microsoft themselves. It's an official recommendation from Microsoft. Please go always with storage V2. So this V1 is only for people who have already created a lot of files. Say like there is queues, there is tables, there is blobs, there is file share. So this is for people who have already working on this V1 for more than years, and they have n number of files in that storage, right? For other people, please, it is go to V2, and they are also advising the customers who are already there in V1 to upgrade to V2. There is a provision Microsoft Azure gives you to upgrade V1 from V2, right? So as of now, you just consider this as obsolete. Okay, this is not in space. You just keep in mind only V2 is there. Okay, so now it is just the version 1, version 2, version 3. You'll have multiple versions of a file, right? Or multiple versions of a software of your application. So you have iOS 11.0, iOS 12.0, similar fashion. Android Jelly Beans, Android other, probably some other thing. So similar kind of versioning. Okay, so networking I will not explain. Data protection, so these are all cloud concepts which I will not explain now. So this is the place where it determines whether your storage account is a data lake or it is a blob storage or it is a proper Windows Azure storage blob. So now what is the difference between WASB, WASB, Windows Azure Storage Blob, and your data lake? So when you check this, right, when you enable this data lake Gen 2, so this storage account will not be WASB, it will be your data lake account. Now, what is the difference between WASB and data lake? Your data lake will be able to support files like Parquet, and it is based on HDFS, right? So if you have so these kind of files, streaming files, will be supported by this data lake, whereas WASB, it also you will be able to copy and paste it manually, but still, from analytics point of view, from integration point of view, it is not that much supported if it is a normal storage blob, right? And when you have a data lake, you will have a very good seamless integration even with analytics, in case if you have to process these Parquet files or the file which supports HDFS format and all those stuffs, right? So I am enabling this as a data lake. I am just clicking on next. And how do I relate this with data intelligences? So if I create a connection type as data lake, then probably I can also put all the streaming files in this data lake and then use it for processing. So my data scientists can easily, take all the data from this data lake, and then they will be able to create models. So this is one use case with respect to SAP Data Intelligence. Okay, so I'm just quickly creating the storage account. Yeah, so my deployment is in progress. It will hardly take 1 or 2 minutes. Then we'll quickly go to data intelligence and create a sample connection. Right. So these connections are already intact. Okay, so you don't have to, this is just for your understanding, I'm telling you, this is how you have to create a connection in data intelligence. But you don't have to worry, in case if you're not able to create an account in Azure or AWS, still it is fine. You can use the existing connections, whatever we have in data intelligence, to upload your file and other stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to the resource, right? So this is my account name. So this is my account name, right? And then this is my access key. Okay, so I will just put it in a notepad. I'll just put it in a notepad because this is what we will be giving it in data intelligence. So my account name is this one. My account name is this one. Now this is the access key. Usually no one will have access to this access key except for the administrators, because this is highly sensitive. If you have access to this key, right, then one can do anything in this particular data. Like they can delete, they can modify, do whatever they want. So that is why this is very sensitive, and not many people will have access to this, right? So I'll just copy this access key and then I'll just paste it in my notepad. Now let me create a sample container here. Okay, I'm just going to the containers. Now don't confuse this with the container whatever we had discussed yesterday. This container is just like a placeholder, just like a folder, in case if for you to easily understand. This is like a folder structure. Now I create a sample folder Venkat. Inside Venkat, I will have multiple files. It's just a folder structure. Just imagine that way. Now, so I have my container. I'll just say Venkat container. Okay. Now I'll just give a public level access here so that we see everything is working. Now I'll just create a container here. Done. I will just note the name of this container. Now, if I go inside this container, I'll be able to upload all the files that I require. Say if you have CSV file, you have TXT file, you have Parquet file, whatever it is, you'll be able to upload it manually also inside this container, right? Say for example, my container is, if I have a container finance, all the finance related documents I will upload in the finance. If I have a container HR, all the HR related documents I will upload it in the HR container. Okay, so I will note down my container name also, and then now I will quickly switch to data intelligence connection management here, right? Okay, so now what is it that I have to select from here? I have to select Azure Data Lake Generation 2, right? And then what is the ID? I'll just say TCS or probably for easy understanding, test ADL, right? And then authorization method, shared key. Right now there is only one authorization method, that access key, and I'll just give my test Azure Data Lake account. Okay, so account name. Now what is the account name that I had given? It's my demo storage 123, and this is the account key. This is I don't give any endpoint suffix. Let me check whether it is working or not. And my root path is Venkat container. Let me check. Okay, so my connection is okay. Right, my connection is okay. Now I'll just create the connection now. My connection is properly working. If I want to tag it, I can tag it, say like a project finance, so that people will know that this is the connection that I have related. I'm just assigning it to project finance. Okay. Now let me just create the connection and then check whether it is reflecting here or not. Right, let me do a refresh. Yeah, test ADL, right? I'll just check the status once again. And I have created the Azure Data Lake connection. So in a similar fashion, if you want to create any connection, you can just do it. If you want to create a Windows, this WASP connection, Windows Azure storage block. So I had shown you one option, right, where it will consider as a data lake. If you just deselect that option, it will become the storage account, so that you can choose the type as WASP. So WASB, and this is the Windows Azure storage block. Okay. So any doubts here? Any doubts? This is how you have to create a connection. And there is also one more stuff here. We call it as certificates. Okay, we call it as certificates. And in case if you are using this HTTPS request, right? And if you have a valid certificate, then probably you can just upload it here so that DI will be able to authenticate that it is receiving the right request. So this is the place where you will have to upload the certificates, and then this is the place where you create the connections, and then this is the place where you can see all the connection types. Okay, now I had told you whatever we had seen is yes,
Just
Murali.
yeah, yeah, it's Ganesh here. Yeah,
Oh,
just to
sorry,
add,
Ganesh. Yeah.
yeah, just to add in here, right? So in the certificate section, it's like not. So right now you see the Data Hub certificates, right? But what will happen is, for example, in a proper enterprise scenario, you might be, accessing different systems, upstream, downstream, etc., and where you might need a lot of certificates in order to access those systems, right? So you would probably need a chain of certificates. In that case, what you have to do is you have to like get that certificate and directly upload it here. Once you upload it, that is all you need to do. Whatever requests go out from DI, right? Whether it's via connection, whether it's via API, whether it's via anything. If you connect to any system, if there is a certificate lying here, it will automatically attach that certificate to the request, and the request will be, properly evaluated by the destination system. So right now, the certificates which you see are not just for the SAP Data Hub Data Intelligence, but it's also for the.
And yeah, so right now we have been seeing connection types, certificates, how to create a connection, what are all the required parameters for each and every connection type, right? And then this is how we will filter.
Again, can't hear you.
STADL. All right, just search for test. Okay. So sorry, I'm just searching in the connection type. I just have to go to the connections and then search for my connection. Test. If I give test, all the connections will be displayed here. And yeah, we have the normal filtering options. If you want to filter it based on the tags, or if you want to filter it based on the type, I want to see only the Azure Data Lake versioning 2. So you'll be able to filter it, and then those connections will be displayed here. Just click on this and the filter will go off. Okay. And one more important feature which I had written it down in the whiteboard is import or export. Just remember this. You can also have you can export all your connections and then import into separate tenants. So this is the place where you just export all the connections. Okay, so whichever connections that you want to export, you just select it. Say for example, I want only Data Lake and HANA localhost. I will export these two connections. Now this will be exported as a JSON file, and then you just have to import it again in a separate tenant. So this is what it is all about, connection management, right? So any questions? Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so now if I ask anyone to create a connection in S3 or Azure Data Lake or Azure Storage or HANA database connection, you'll know how to create a connection, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, excellent. So shall we move on to the next topic?
Yep.
Okay, so now we will move on to SAP Cloud Connector. So this is also one of the important topic because in case we are not sure whether you will be using on-premise or you will be using DI Cloud version. So in case if you have a DI Cloud version, how do you connect to the on-premise customer's environment is going to be entirely different. So you are going to do it via SAP Cloud Connector because see why? Because I'll just give you an example. Now we have DI on-premise, right? So one of our customers were one of the customers that we had worked with. They had gone for DI on-premise, and they were working on Azure, and we had installed the DI on Azure. And what they had done is they had using express route. There is something called as express route, which is a VPN connection. They had established an express route connection from their Azure to their on-premise data center. Hence, you don't need anything. So it will act like your Azure is also sitting on top of their data center. So it will be easily able to communicate to the on-premise data center using the express route. So ideally, which means that whatever you install on Azure also will be able to communicate to your on-premise data center, that is your on-premise systems. So DI, which is also installed on Azure, will be able to communicate to the on-premise system without any fluctuation, okay, without any problem. Because it is a seamless connection, they have already established the VPN and it will be able to communicate. But whereas when we go for a DI cloud version, right? When we go for a DI cloud version, what is going to happen is DI, if you go for a Neo, or if you're going to go for a Cloud Foundry, Neo means SAP hosted data centers and Cloud Foundry is nothing but your Azure, AWS, etc. So they might have their own data centers. Our SAP Data Intelligence is deployed on the data centers. Say, for example, if I'm going to deploy it in the Cloud Foundry, probably the region would be Europe or US, depending on the region that you use. And obviously, you will not be able to communicate with the Europe region or US region data center where DI is deployed with your on-premise data center, correct? And you also don't want to do it because that data center is somewhere hosted, someone is taking care of it. You also do not want to do that. So that is where for DI cloud, for securely accessing your on-premise SAP systems, we have SAP Cloud Connector. Okay, so I will just open up my whiteboard.
Just to give some clarity, I think this is if any like if the customers go with they uses the SAP cloud, right? Then that's where we would be really heavily using this. If that something is an on-prem, probably we may not be using it, right?
Yes, you are absolutely right. So if DI is an on-premise, obviously there is no need for your SAP Cloud Connector. But I heard, one of your team member is working on SAP Cloud Platform, right? So leave out DI. I mean, SAP Cloud Connector is common for all the things as well. So in case if they have to integrate, their SAP Cloud Platform application with some other on-premise application, obviously they need to use SAP Cloud Connector, correct? So this is very important. And tomorrow, in case if you're going to work on any projects wherein you have to use DI cloud, then you really need to set this SAP Cloud Connector. So I will give you all the details. I will tell you from scratch, how to set this up, how to do it. I also have some screenshots already placed so that whenever you have this kind of requirement, just go through this video, have a look at the screenshot, have a look at the configurations, and then your SAP Cloud Connector will be up and running.
I'm here.
Okay. So I'll just quickly open up my whiteboard. Okay. So we'll quickly go through the SAP Cloud Connector connection, and then we'll start with the ABAP integration. And then probably second half, we will sit for metadata management, hands-on. Right. I will. So now, to make a clear representation, right? I'll just put. Okay. So now we have assumed that as a customer, I have my S4 HANA on-prem system. Okay. I have my S4 HANA on-prem system. Now, this is my customer data center. Okay, which is a very security stringent one. I don't expose anything to the outside world as of now. Now my S4 HANA on-premise system, and this is the server where my S4 HANA is installed. Okay, now if I have to connect or communicate to this S4 HANA, what is it that I have to do from DI perspective, from data intelligence perspective, right? If there is a requirement for them to integrate DI with their SAP internal system. So obviously the only chances they have to go for SAP Cloud Connector. Now we have SAP Cloud Platform here. SAP Cloud Platform, right? And now we need to have a handshake between the SAP Cloud Platform and S/4HANA on-premise system. So this is the external world. Now, can anyone tell me, when we are talking about SAP Cloud Connector, we are talking about SAP Data Intelligence, we are talking about on-premise customer system. I am telling you to have a handshake between SAP Cloud Platform and S/4HANA on-premise. Can anyone tell me why? Anyone?
Is it something that why we need to go with the SAP Cloud Platform? Is that what you're saying, that connector, cloud connector? Because it's in the SAP Cloud, this is in on-prem. So obviously you will have to go through that SAP connector, right? That's the...
Yes, but probably a very basic difference, right? Not very basic difference, very basic definitions. So we have our DI Cloud version, right? Now,
Yeah.
this data intelligence cloud version is nothing but is built on top of SAP Cloud Platform. So that is why whenever you have the DI Cloud version, you will be having an access to SAP Cloud Platform. From there, the DI Cloud version will be spinned up based on Neo or Cloud Foundry. And then the handshake has to happen between your SAP Cloud Platform and the S/4HANA on-premise. Now, this handshake will happen through the Cloud Connector, CC. I'll just put it as a CC, Cloud Connector. Right. Now, one more trivia here, probably which is not required for data intelligence, but since you guys are from development background, this will be very useful. So we have a web IDE environment, right? In case if you have to expose your OData protocol, then we need to configure something additional called as destination in SAP Cloud Platform. So this destination will have the on-prem details. Okay, this destination will have the on-prem details, so that when you expose your OData calls, it will know that which server that I have to connect to and get the OData protocol and then expose it to the external world. But for DI, this is not required, right? So now, if I have to draw a pyramid and then show you in terms of cloud where the SAP Cloud Platform. So you all are aware of this, right? SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, right? So SAP Cloud Platform is platform as a service. When I say platform as a service, it provides you the required platform to build any applications on top of it. So DI is one of the applications which is built on top of SAP Cloud Platform. So now, so we will be able to run the applications without having to worry about the underlying infra. And then we will be, as I told you, we need to establish a handshake between the SAP Cloud Platform and the customer's on-premise S/4HANA system, right? So I probably, if I have some time, I will also show you how it looks like in the connection management also, right? So what happens is, in DI on-premise, you did not see this connection, right? So when you choose the ABAP, connection type as ABAP, when you choose RFC as a protocol, you will have another option, gateway. And here SAP Cloud Connector will be there, right? I will show it to you in the cloud if time is there. So this will be available only on two occasions. One is if it is a DI cloud, DI on-premise, you will not see this. And another one is it will be available only for the RFC connection, right? It will not be available for HTTPS or HTTP. It will be available only for the RFC connections. So only when you choose the type as ABAP and then the protocol as RFC, you will be able to configure it to a cloud connector, so that this cloud connector will be able to talk to the on-premise system and then get the data and then put it back to DI. So this is the entire mechanism. Now, how do you download this cloud connector? So why I am telling you all these things, because tomorrow no one will come to your rescue. In case if you have to set up an ABAP setup with DI cloud, you should know all these steps and you should be able to set this up, right? So from where I can download the cloud connector. Cloud connector is an installer. Okay, so I will be able to download it from https tools.hana.ondemand.com. So you go to this website and then you will search for cloud connector, right? And then it will show you various options for Windows, for Mac, for Linux, right? So you just, depending on the appropriate OS, you have to download the Cloud Connector. Now, one of the basic question is, can anyone tell me where you have to download this Cloud Connector to? Where you will be downloading this Cloud Connector?
Any local machine or something.
Local machine, local.
Not local means on your server or somewhere. Like.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So this is my customer's data center. Okay. So this is my customer DC. I have my S4 HANA here. Now, probably in the same environment or even in the same box, you can install your Cloud Connector. Now, once you install the Cloud Connector, you have to access the Cloud Connector via this particular standard URL, localhost 8443. Okay, so this is the way how you will be able to access Cloud Connector. This is very, very simple. Cloud Connector, you just go to that website that I had mentioned you, tools.hana.ondemand.com. It will be like normal software. If you are going to download any software, right? So it will be like a normal software. You just double click it, the installer will download, just click on it, Cloud Connector will get installed. Now, once the Cloud Connector is installed, open a browser and then go for this HTTP localhost 8443. Your Cloud Connector will be opened, and then you have to log on to the Cloud Connector to configure the settings. Okay, so now in case if customers comes and ask you, okay, because SAP Cloud Platform is something that you don't have control over the underlying infrastructure. So what will be the pricing, right? What will be the pricing if I have to if you have to use this SAP Cloud Platform and all those applications, in case if I have to use, what will be the pricing? So we there is an estimator calculator, like how we have it in AWS or Azure. You have an SAP Cloud Platform estimator calculator, right? You can just go to it, and then you can put in the number of users, required parameters, and then you will be able to get the price. Just probably search for SAP estimator tool. You should be able to get it in Google. So okay, so this will tell you the pricing. Okay, now I will just go through some of the screenshots, okay, which I had configured, so that you will have a clear understanding of what it is. Just give me a second. I'll just switch to the system. This is how the Cloud Connector login will be there. So just give the username and password. So by default, the username is administrator and the password is manage. Once you log in, it will ask you to change the password. Just change the password. Now remember, very, very important thing. This has to be installed on your on-premise environment. Okay, be it in the same box, different box, but it has to be in your on-premise network. Now, once you have logged on to the Cloud Connector, you will be getting a screen like this. Okay, now just a second. Yeah, so you'll be getting a screen like this, and then first thing that you have to do is you have to add a sub account. Okay, you should be able to add a sub account. Sub account is nothing but in SAP Cloud Platform, you will already be having something called as a sub account. Probably if your sub account ID will be like, it will be like a 20 or 24 digit character, so like the 2xe512 something like that. So add a sub account, and then your sub account will be added. So you have to give the sub account ID. You will be giving the sub account region where your cloud platform is going to reside. All the details of your SAP Cloud Platform account, you have to give it in this Cloud Connector. Okay, add the sub account, and once the sub account is added successfully, you should be able to get an icon like this, right? So which means that your sub account has been added successfully to the Cloud Connector. Okay, now sorry, so what is the next step? So now my sub account is added. Okay, you see it is connected. It will show you as connected, now which means that your sub account of your SAP Cloud Platform is connected. Now we have two things here. After adding the sub account, what is the next step that we have to do is we have to establish a connection between SAP Data Intelligence and the SAP on-premise ABAP systems, right? So for that, we choose the option cloud to on-premise, because we are going to integrate SAP Data Intelligence with the backend system. Okay, now if you see here, it will tell you that this thing is connected, but no active resources available. Check cloud to on-premise access control. Why? Because if I choose this, cloud to on-premise, I will not have anything here. So this is the place where you will be actually configuring your on-premise system to which SAP Data Intelligence has to talk to. Okay, now I am going here. Now what I will do is I will hit on this plus button. Okay, I'll hit on this plus button to create the connection. Now add the system mapping. What is the backend type of an on-premise system, right? So if I'm going to connect to S4 system or ECC system, I'll be choosing the ABAP system. Or if my HANA is residing in my on-premise data center, I will choose HANA. So depending on your requirement, you will be able to use this. You can choose the backend type. My backend type is this is my on-premise. Okay, this is my on-premise, and this is my SAP DI. Now for SAP DI, the backend is the on-premise system. Okay, so I choose the required on-premise system. Say for example, it is an ABAP system. Then probably I choose the HTTP, or I think I had chosen HANA DB there in the previous screen. That's why the RFC is not coming. But when you choose ABAP system, you will have the RFC enabled. So just select the RFP or HTTP. The RFC connection. HTTP will be disabled. Now, once you choose the RFC connection, you have to give the internal host. So this is your internal application server. This is your internal port, right? Now this is, assume that I'm connecting to my HANA DB. I have taken the screenshots of the connection to my HANA DB. Okay, so now if it is S4 or ECC, then it will be your ECC application server or S4 application server and the internal port to which it has to connect to. So probably and then we have something called as virtual host. Now most of the customers, what is the mistake that they will do is, by default, if you don't select anything in the virtual host or virtual port, it will map directly. By default it will take the value of your internal host. By default it will take the value of your internal port. Now the main intention, okay, behind using this, one of the main intentions behind using this cloud connector is not only to expose the systems to the outside world, but also to mask the IP address. I do not want to reveal my application server to the external world. So in such cases, I have to give my virtual host and I have to give my virtual port. It could be anything. This virtual host could be anything. So internally, Cloud Connector will map this virtual host to your internal host. Okay. So now this is my virtual host ID and this is my virtual port number. So my virtual host will be mapped to my customer host and my virtual port 100 will be mapped to my internal port. All right. So now I come down. Now, once I have added the systems, okay, from cloud to on-premise, once I have added the required systems, I'll be, getting these three systems. I have added three systems here, one for HANA and one for ABAP system. If you see the ABAP system, I have used the protocol as RFC, okay, and for HANA, it is a TCP protocol. Now, as soon as you add the system, right, this will be in the unchecked state. Now you have to check it. You have to check whether the connection, the cloud connector is able to ping your internal systems, or it is able to talk or communicate to your internal systems. Okay, so that is where you have to click this particular button. So this is the one, right? So this is the one. Once you do it, it will do a check. And once it does a check, and it will tell you whether it is reachable or it is not reachable. Now, if it is reachable, yes, in the cloud connector, it is working fine, absolutely fine. Now, you remember what we did? We added a sub account, right? So in your SAP Cloud Platform, also this should be reachable. Okay. So in your SAP Cloud Platform, also we have the cloud connector. If you go to SAP Cloud Platform, if you go to that particular sub account, say your sub account is EX12, something like that, click on that sub account, come down to connectivity, click on cloud connectors. So automatically, whatever systems that you have added there in the cloud connector will be added here. Okay. So now you have successfully established a handshake between your SAP Cloud Platform and your on-premise system. right? So if I ask you to set up, SAP Cloud Connector now, will you have any hiccups, or is it pretty straightforward for you, or is it a little bit complex? Now, probably open up the mics and probably tell me your
Yeah.
feedback.
Based on what you have shown on the screen, it's just, I do see a straightforward, not really that complicated on creating that. Probably there would be some challenges, implementation challenge would be there, but at least
Mhm.
we should follow through
So
the steps and we should be able to create that.
yeah, so I mean, Murali, you're right. I mean, but it is little straightforward when compared to other configuration settings, right? So this should be straightforward, because whatever, if you just follow the screenshots, whatever I had given, right? In case you can just try it out in your on-premise, if you have your HANA database, just give the same host, give some virtual host, some other virtual host, and do a connection. It will definitely work. If you have a cloud platform account, then just try to, obviously you should be having a cloud platform account in case if you're going to go for a cloud connector. Just connect, do a handshake, it will definitely work.
Yeah.
Right.
And the
And
virtual host is something that has to be, kind of a best practice, right? So that
it
you
is
would
it
not
is definitely it is definitely but I will tell you what is the common slip up most of the customers will do. Okay, so
Mhm.
they will also just click on next and then they will go. What they don't know is the system by default takes the internal one,
Isn't it
internal
a
host.
mandatory? Isn't it a mandatory column?
It is
That
a it yeah, it is a mandatory
by
one.
default it would take the other one. Okay, got it. Okay.
Exactly, you're right. By default, it will take the. I have modified this in my screenshot, but by default, if you hit this next, right, in this internal host, your virtual host will also have the same internal host, and your virtual port will also have the same port. So it means like you're, inadvertently exposing your application server to the outside world. So most of the customers have missed this. I myself have seen that, and I have advised the customers to change this in case if they don't want to expose this to other people who, in case, as I told you, right, if you go to connection management, click on edit, still I will be able to see the application server and the port through which you are connecting. Though I will not be able to see the user and the password, but I can see to which application server you are being connected. Now, if I give my virtual host as something like, say for example, I just give it as, black color. This is my virtual host. My port is something like 252. So obviously this doesn't mean anything to any of the users, right? So this is how you have to mask your internal address. Okay, so this is how your SAP Cloud Connector is going to be working, and this is the configuration that you have to do. And please remember the basic stuff. Just download the SAP Cloud Connector on the server where your on-premise S4 HANA is installed. Just log on to the Cloud Connector, add the sub account which you are using for DI Cloud, and then add the cloud to on-premise system, select the necessary protocol, RFC or HTTP or TCP, depending on the system that you want to connect to, and then do a check whether it is working or not. Importantly, change your virtual host and virtual port. And then the important stuff is when you go to connection management, as I had told you, right, when you go to connection management in DI Cloud, choose the ABAP connection type, choose the protocol as RFC. So that is the only one which is supported now, right? So choose the protocol as RFC and then gateway. Okay, so there will be something called as gateway host, which will have a text box for you to enter something. It is not mandatory parameter, so you can just leave it as blank. At least in most of the customer cases, we have just left it as blank. We did not provide any explicit gateway host. In case if you have a gateway to bypass, these protocols or these communications, just give the gateway host, or else you can leave it as blank. And gateway type, that is the most important parameter, guys. So this you have to select it as SAP Cloud Connector. If you don't select this, then obviously it will not work. So if you select this, then you're telling Data Intelligence to do an RFC connection, go via the Cloud Connector. And which Cloud Connector it will go? As I told you, DI is a cloud application developed on the SAP Cloud Platform. So the cloud platform where you have spinned up the SAP DI instance, it will go to the same Cloud Connector, and then it will check for any successful connection, which is which the SAP Cloud Platform is able to do a handshake on the on-premise system. Okay, so this is what you have to do for a cloud connection. In case if you have to connect to ABAP on-premise system from DI Cloud, this is a process that you have to follow, guys. Right? Everyone is clear? Any
And
doubts?
Venkat, where we will get this PDF? The
Sorry?
PDF which you just, where we will get this PDF?
No, this PDF actually I just wanted to show you, but anyway, I will just I have not put it in the repository. I will just add it in the repository so that you can use it for a reference. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to visit our Vimeo page and follow for more upcoming videos.